Robin Brown's daughter, is 6 months pregnant, and her father, Kody Brown, is on the run. Aurora, Robin Brown's daughter, is 6 months pregnant and in the hospital. She was sent to the hospital because she suddenly got sick. The most unexpected and scary thing about this event is that Kody Brown, who is Robin's husband and Aurora's stepfather, is also the father of Aurora's unborn kid. Since this surprising news came out, Kody Brown has been hiding. His family and the people in charge still can't find him. Robin Brown is really angry after this event. Robin said, "If I find Kody, I'll hit him with my shoe." As a father, how could he do something so terrible? I need answers. Not only did he hurt me, he also hurt my daughter. The family is really tense and sad. People are frightened about Aurora now. Not only has this event rocked the family, but it has also shaken society. The Brown family had always been in the public glare, thanks to their reality TV show, which previously fascinated the country with its polygamous family dynamics. But nothing could have prepared the world for what would happen on that fateful July afternoon. When Aurora Brown, Robin Brown's 21-year-old daughter, collapsed at home with acute abdominal discomfort, she was transported to the hospital. At first, they thought it might be a problem with her pregnancy, which she had primarily hidden to herself. But the medical staff soon stabilized her. But when the physicians asked about the child's father, Aurora started to cry and said a name that would shock her family, the media, and the whole country. She said, "Kody." Not just any Kody, but Kody Brown, her stepfather and Robin's legal spouse. The news spread like crazy. The family that used to be known for strange love and complicated relationships was now in a terrible scandal that no one anticipated coming. As soon as the doctors told the police about the case, they sent social workers and detectives. But by that time, Kody had completely disappeared. His phone was turned off. They spotted his truck left behind at a rest break near Flagstaff. There is no evidence of him being seen since he was last seen strolling alone into the woods on camera. Robin Brown, who used to be the calm and collected head of the family, was now in a condition of emotional ruin. She stood outside the hospital where Aurora was unconscious and spoke to the press in tears. "If I find Kody, I swear I'll hit him with my shoe. How could he do this to my baby's life? He was like a father to her. I put my faith in him with my life, and he broke everything." The press briefings were passionate and out of control. People wanted justice. Former wives of Kody, like Janelle and Christine, spoke out in support of Robin and Aurora, but their voices shook with anger, sadness, and astonishment. The Brown kids were already having a hard time because of years of complicated family problems, and now they were in shock. Aurora's biological brothers and sisters stood behind her. Brianna, her older sister, stayed with her in the hospital. Her brothers wouldn't talk to any reporters, and their wrath was clear in their silence. During the first few days of her hospitalization, Aurora didn't say anything. But ultimately, in a devastating moment she wrote about in her private journal, which she later gave to the police, she wrote, "He said it was love. That no one would get. I didn't get what was going on since he was lonely. And now I'm pregnant with a baby that wasn't supposed to be born." The FBI got involved in the case and put Kody Brown on the list of wanted fugitives for several possible crimes, including statutory rape, depending on Aurora's exact age at the time of conception, and incestuous abuse. The legal system was made more difficult by the unclear family ties. Kody was not Aurora's real father, but he had adopted her and treated her as his daughter since she was a youngster. Even Dog the Bounty Hunter tweeted to say he would help find Kody. People on social media were guessing about everything from Kody hiding in a polygamous complex to him leaving the country for good. People from Nevada, Utah, and even Canada sent in tips, but none of them resulted to his arrest. The narrative held the whole country spellbound. Fans of Sister Wives, who had liked the family for being open, co-parenting, and working together, were now heartbroken. Talk shows, podcasts, and news specials looked at the psychology of what Kody did. Some people said that the bad relationships in patriarchal polygamy were to blame. Some people wanted stronger protections for kids in blended homes. People protested outside TLC's headquarters, asking that any future reruns of the show be canceled. The police also kept an eye on the Brown family's home to keep the peace. Through it all, Robin stayed with Aurora. On a very emotional night, she sat beside her daughter's bed and said, "You will get through this. And when you do, we will raise this child together. He might have damaged everything, but he won't ruin you." Robin filed for legal separation from Kody in absentia in the months that followed. She worked with trauma counselors, women's rights activists, and police to catch him. She was no longer soft-spoken. Instead, she was filled with parental wrath. She promised herself that she would never stop looking. Aurora was emotionally broken, but she displayed calm strength. As her pregnancy went on, the community came together to support her. There were a lot of letters of love, support, and unity. People who didn't know the family put candles outside the hospital, and online donations helped pay for therapy and legal support. Then, on a frigid November morning, Aurora gave birth to a newborn boy with black hair and brilliant, inquiring eyes. She gave him the name Hope, because that's what she wanted him to carry, not shame, fear, or hate. Hope, but it was meant to be the perfect vacation for the whole family. Kody Brown had planned a lavish vacation in the snowy mountains of Utah to try to fix the problems between his wives and kids. A remote, rustic cabin resort with hot springs, sleigh rides, and roaring fires seemed like the best spot to get back in touch. He thought of laughing, togetherness, and tranquility, something the Brown family hadn't felt in a long time. Meri was the first to voice her worries. "Are you sure this is a good idea, Kody?" she questioned, crossing her arms and standing near the van. "We hardly talk to each other these days. Putting us all in one cabin could be a disaster." But Kody was sure. "This trip could save this family, Meri. We need it." Janelle, always practical, nodded carefully. "I just hope there's Wi-Fi. I need to check on some meetings." Christine, who was now independent and full of confidence, chose to come for the kids' sake, but she didn't really want to make up with Kody. And what about Robin? She was nervous the whole time because of the tension in the air. The snow started to fall heavily as they got to the lodge. The kids were so happy they threw snowballs and screamed with joy. It looked like everything was going to be fine for a while. But that night, everything started to go wrong. The cabin was magnificent, but it only had one big kitchen, and Christine and Robin got into a fight right away over what to do for dinner. Christine remarked firmly as she unpacked goods, "I already planned spaghetti for tonight." "Well, Kody likes my creamy chicken." Robin said, "I thought we were going to have that," her voice sweet but stern. Kody, who was in the middle, tried to make a joke. "Why not both? We can combine chicken and pasta, like in a fusion cuisine." Nobody laughed. Meri, on the other hand, elected to stay alone in one of the top apartments. Janelle tried to assist plan activities by offering board games and a group walk, but no one appeared willing to work together. The storm came next. That night, a blizzard hit the neighborhood and knocked out the power. The family was now stranded in a freezing hut with just firewood and each other. Without any distractions, the building tensions burst over. There were fights. Christine said Kody was showing favoritism. Meri said she was lonely, and even Janelle said she felt like an outsider in the family now. Christine snapped, "You always pick Robin. This family used to be in balance. Now it seems like we're all circling around her like she's the queen." "That's not fair," Robin said, but Meri stopped her. "No, Christine is right. And I've been too silent for too long." The kids, who had been looking forward to constructing snowmen and riding in sleighs, started to feel the emotional chill more than the blizzard outside. But in the middle of all the pandemonium, something surprising happened. Truly, one of the smaller kids lighted a candle and sat quietly with a sketchbook. Gabriel, Savannah, and Aurora all slowly joined her. They began to talk, joke, and sketch together. Some of the adults' frigid tension softened as they saw their kids get along. That night, by candlelight and the blazing fireplace, Janelle proposed that they all sit in a circle and share a memory they loved about being part of the Brown family. They were hesitant at first, but they eventually opened up. Meri remembered the first time they all went camping together in the past. Christine talked about the Thanksgiving when everyone danced in the kitchen. Robin cried as she talked about how this family kept her from being alone. Kody, who was ashamed and hurt, even said he was sorry. He said, "I've let many of you down, but I still want to try if you let me." The snowstorm went on for 2 more days. During that period, the family cooked together, played cards by the fire, and began to talk instead of merely argue. They didn't solve everything, but they began to pay attention. The Browns weren't magically healed when the storm passed and they got home. But they came back with something they hadn't had in a long time: hope. Sometimes, when your holiday plans go wrong, life gives you something better, a chance to start anew. But the world was shutting down in the spring of 2020. For most families, being in quarantine meant being indoors with close family. But things were about to get even more problematic for the Brown family, who were on the reality show Sister Wives. Kody Brown, the head of the family, was already trying to balance his life between 4 homes: Meri, Janelle, Christine, and Robin. But when the COVID-19 epidemic arrived, it made things very hard for their family in terms of logistics and emotions. At first, no one knew how seriously to take the news. Kody, who always believed in being ready and in charge, wanted to make sure that all of his wives and kids followed rigorous rules. He set up an emergency family Zoom call. "I made a protocol," Kody said triumphantly, handing out a chart. "Every wife has to stay in her own home. No visits between houses. Kids can't go from one house to another. I will remain in one residence at a time and switch houses every week, as the CDC says to." Christine pushed back right away. "That's not right, Kody. You're going to pick which house you quarantine in first? What about our children? They need their dad." Janelle, who was always practical, nodded. "We have to use science to think. We're all at more risk if we all come into contact with each other." Meri rolled her eyes without saying anything, still feeling distance from Kody. "I've been keeping my distance from you for a long time," she said quietly. Robin, the youngest and most protective of Kody's rules, swiftly said that her home was the safest place to go. "I haven't been going out at all. If Kody stays here, it might make sense." This sent off a huge wave of feelings. Christine said that Robin was playing with the situation. Janelle let out a big sigh. Meri hung up without saying goodbye. Things became worse as the days evolved into weeks. Kody preferred to remain mostly with Robin because she said her home was safe. Christine wouldn't talk to him. Janelle's main concerns were homeschooling and keeping her house in order. Meri spent all her time on her LuLaRoe business and online spiritual classes. The youngsters wanted to see each other. Christine's youngest daughter, Truly, grieved when she couldn't play with Robin's kids, Solomon and Ariella. Janelle's teenage sons, Gabe and Garrison, broke Kody's rules and went out to see friends. This caused a big fight and threats of eviction. Christine finally lost it following another crazy Zoom meeting one night. "You always choose Robin. You're not being fair. We're not a family. We're just 4 homes that share a man who only visits one of them." Janelle tried to help, but it was evident that the pandemic was bringing out problems that had been concealed for a long time. Meri, shockingly, was the second person to speak. "I don't think this virus is just testing our immune systems. It's putting our hearts to the test. It's possible that we should ask ourselves if we're still a family or just a show." The stillness was so loud. It took a while, but the Browns slowly got used to it. They started holding family gaming nights on Zoom every week. Kody started to split his time more evenly and agreed to stay in quarantine for 2 weeks before moving. To cut down on trips to the shop, Janelle helped make a food list that everyone could use. Christine started making TikToks with her girls to cheer them happy. And what about Meri? She began writing a memoir with the title Alone, but Not Broken. The Browns were different at the end of 2020. They weren't the same family they used to be before COVID-19. There were still arguments, anger, and distancing, but there were also moments of contemplation, growth, and facing painful truths. Kody learned that having power didn't mean having a connection. His marriages understood that being honest about where you stand is sometimes more important than living together. The Brown family wasn't destroyed by the pandemic, it showed them. But Michael T. Brown Padron zipped up her leather sketchbook and walked into her studio, which was a warm extension of her house garage that had been turned into a colorful creative space. It was a cold morning in Flagstaff. There were fabric samples all over the table, mannequins stood like mute muses in one corner, and sewing machines hummed with excitement. Christine and Kody Brown's daughter Michael T. was ready to go on with her life and become a full-fledged fashion designer. Michael T. has always been interested in colors, textures, and how clothes might convey a narrative. Because she grew up in a numerous family, she had seen a lot of different personal styles, from Meri's conventional chic to Robin's soft, flowing looks. She got ideas from all of them, but she wanted to do something different. Michael T. was ready to take center stage now that her daughter Avalon was getting older and her husband Tony was cheering her on. Michael D. told Christine on the porch one day as they were drinking iced coffee, "Mom, I want to start my own fashion business." Christine grinned. "You've always had that fire. What are you waiting for?" Michael D. took a big breath. "Bravery, I guess. And some cash." Christine laughed. "I can help with courage. Money. Maybe you should tell your relatives about it." She was scared of the concept, especially since Kody wasn't renowned for backing non-traditional businesses. But Michael T. understood she had to own her voice if she wanted to establish a name for herself. The Brown family met for their regular Sunday meeting later that week. Kody sat with his arms crossed. Robin observed closely. Meri nodded without saying anything, and Janelle seemed interested. Michael T. said, "I want to start a line of clothes. Not just clothes, but a statement, something modern, daring, and open to everyone. This is what I'm calling it. Threaded Truths." "What does that mean?" Robin asked. "It means weaving stories into cloth. Telling the truth via style. It's who I am," Michael T. said, her voice wavering a little. First, Janelle smiled. "I think it's a great idea." Meri said, "You have style. I saw your drawings." Kody shrugged his shoulders. "If you think people will buy what you're selling, I won't stop you. Don't ask me to model anything, okay?" Everyone laughed, even Robin. Michael T. started working day and night with help from several of her sister wives and a small loan from her mom. She worked with a local seamstress, set up an Instagram page, and even contacted an internet store to sell her products. The Arizona setting inspired her debut collection, Desert Bloom. It had sun-baked colors, layered cotton, and flowing linen with vivid designs. There was a tag on each piece that said, "Rooted in Truth." Michael T. Brown made it. One night, as she was working on a mannequin wearing her favorite garment, which was a flowing dress with Navajo patterns on it, Avalon came in, embraced her leg, and said, "Mama's dress pretty." Michael T. started to cry. This wasn't just about clothes. It was about the past. Months later, Michael T. put on her first fashion show at a small gallery in Flagstaff. Tony helped set up the chairs, Christine made cookies, and Kody even came wearing a shirt she had made, even though she didn't want to. The lights went off. The music began. Models walked the runway. They were all local ladies of different sizes and origins, including Janelle's daughter Savannah and her cousin Aspen. People in the crowd clapped, cheered, and even a few people from Phoenix stood up to take pictures. Michael T. left the show clutching Avalon's hand at the end. She answered, "This is just the beginning." Threaded Truths becoming more popular online, and local fashion blogs wrote about her works. Michael T. was asked to speak at a conference in Salt Lake City about empowering women. She also started teaching fashion classes for teens. The Brown family still had problems with each other, but Michael T. had found her center. She was more than just a daughter, wife, or mother. Hi, lovely viewers. Welcome to my channel. I'm Sabrina, and I hope you're having a great day. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you appreciate the video. But Flagstaff, Arizona, had a beautiful summer evening, and the air was full of excitement. A family friend was hosting a big party in their lawn to celebrate their retirement. Almost everyone they knew was invited, including Kody Hall, who lives in a plural marriage with 3 wives, Lila, Miriam, and Cassie. Kody had made a life that was full of love, problems, and depth. People talked about his big family, but they were always polite. The 3 spouses, each with their own personality, had figured out how to live together, but not without the normal problems that come with sharing a man, a home, and a hope of living in peace. Kody felt a little nervous as he fixed his tie in the mirror before leaving. He didn't know why. It could have been the tension of being the man with 3 wives at the party, or it could have just been excitement. He didn't realize that fate had a surprise for him. His ex-wife Tessa would be there. By the time Kody and his 3 wives got there, the party was already in full flow. There were strings of golden lights in the garden, and live music played quietly from a small stage. People were eating barbecue and drinking wine while they talked. Lila, his first and most confident wife, was the first to talk to people. Miriam, who was soft-spoken and spiritual, was drawn to the calmer group of people beside the fireplace. Cassie, the youngest and newest wife, stayed close to Kody. She was still getting used to being in public with the other 2. As they walked about, Kody suddenly heard a laugh that sounded familiar from across the garden. He stopped talking in the middle of it. Tessa, his ex-wife who had left plural marriage years earlier, was standing there by the drinks table. She looked beautiful in a flowing burgundy dress, sipping wine and talking to an old acquaintance. Lila saw his face first. "Is that?" she questioned in a quiet voice.
Kody said yes.
"Tessa." The wives looked at each other. Lila held on to her glass tightly. Miriam's eyes got wider in surprise, and Cassie looked bewildered because she had only heard of Tessa in passing. Tessa saw them and walked over with a smile that showed she was sure of herself. "Kody Hall," she responded with a smile. "It's been a long time." Kody smiled stiffly. "Tessa, you look good." The present spouses formed a semicircle behind Kody, making the mood uncomfortable. They were both protective and interested. Tessa looked at the women. "You must be Lila and Miriam. And Cassie, right? I've heard bits and pieces." Lila, who was always brave, said, "We've heard some stories, too." Tessa raised one eyebrow. "I'm sure you have." They moved away from the crowd and made an awkward circle under the dim lights. Tessa was the first to speak. "I didn't come here to start anything. I had no idea you were going to be here. But I guess seeing you all again made me feel something." Kody cleared his throat and said, "We've moved on, Tessa. Things are different now." "I see that now. I was young and didn't know what I wanted. But you always wanted a big family and I didn't fit in with that." Miriam came up in a calm but firm voice. "We're not trying to take your place, Tessa. Each of us is on a different journey with Kody." Tessa said, "I'm not judging. In fact, I admire it. I couldn't do what you do." Kody and Tessa moved to the side for a minute of privacy while the festivities went on. "Do you ever think, what would life have been like if I had stayed?" she questioned quietly. Kody sighed. "All the time. I also know that we are where we should be. You taught me a lot, even when you left." They hugged for a short time, which was both sad and happy. They didn't feel any emotion or regret. They were just 2 people who had loved each other and now understood each other better from a distance. When Kody got back to his wives, he observed something beautiful: Lila, Miriam, and Cassie talking without any stress. They had seen the interaction and felt the history in the air, yet they were still together. Lila poked Kody when he got back. "Are you okay?" He grinned and said, "I am. I think I finally closed a chapter tonight." Cassie smiled and said, "Good. Because your story with us is still being written." They laughed, lifted their glasses, and went back to the celebration. In multiple marriage, feelings were often mixed up, but love, communication, and trust were always there. That night made Kody think about how far he had come and how thankful he was for the path he was on. Hello, beautiful viewers. Welcome to my channel. I'm Sabrina, and I hope you're having a great day. If you like the video, please subscribe to the channel.